Hello and welcome to Philosophy. I'm Mr. Sweet, a philosophy teacher at Harris Westminster Sixth Form, and I'm here to give you a brief introduction of this subject that you very unlikely have studied previously to A-level. So philosophy means love of wisdom, and it's very much just a way to understand the world around you. It's quite a hard subject to pin down, so a definition I've always quite liked is John Campbell's, who says that philosophy is thinking in slow motion. It breaks down, describes, and assesses moves we ordinarily make at great speed to do with our natural motivations and beliefs. It's a way of really slowing down our thoughts and helping to analyse and critically think about the way that we understand the world, and the way that we understand language and our minds and morals and so on. At Harris Westminster, we study the AQA course, which at a glance will be consisting of 2 papers, which consist of 4 total topics. The Epistemology quarter of the course will be focusing on the study of knowledge, answering questions like how can we be certain of anything? There is also moral philosophy, which is concerned with goods and bads and rights and wrongs and what kind of actions and systems are in place to help guide us to what's right or wrong. The metaphysics of God helps us answer those key critical questions about the nature of God and theological answers to whether or not God exists or not. And the metaphysics of mind is interested in how the human mind works, where exactly it's located, and questions surrounding those kinds of things. At the end of year 13, there will be 2 papers that will cover 50% of the course each, and each will last 3 hours long. If you do want to get started early and are interested in the subject, some reading we could recommend is Think by Simon Blackburn, which is a slightly more technical version than the other 2, but it's a very academic text and very much covers the basics of philosophy at a good level, so I thoroughly recommend this as a good way of getting into the academics of philosophy. A similar and slightly more simplified version of philosophy can be found in A Little History of Philosophy by Nigel Warburton, often holding a lot of the same kinds of ideas, but sometimes nicer written. Also, there is Sophie's World, which is a great and probably the most accessible of the 3 books here. It's a great introduction to the history of philosophy and the kinds of questions we ask within it.
Well, being a very devout person, I think I tend to have conservative views when it comes to religion. But philosophy, taking philosophy at Harris especially, has helped me to reevaluate my belief system, and it's helping me to change the way that I think.
Coming to this school, I had to choose 4 subjects, and I decided instead of going for something that I had an idea of from GCSE, I should try and broaden my horizon and find something that I just found interesting and just dive into and see what it could be about.
I decided to study philosophy because I really like learning about different theories on how we should live life, like ethics and morality, and I find metaphysics of God really interesting also.
I think coming into it, I was thinking about how learning English and history and science, there's a lot of kind of underlying assumptions that you need in order to study them meaningfully. And something that really matters to me is analysing and looking at those assumptions themselves, and I thought that philosophy was going to be the best way to do
that. Probably metaphysics of God, and also the debates we get to have in class are really fun and interesting.
I think I like the discussions we have in class because you get to hear like a lot of different views from what you usually hear, because you're usually surrounded by people who say the exact same things as you, so you think like your opinion is like the right one. So being surrounded by people who think very differently to you and like pushing you to like really question like why you have certain beliefs is very helpful to have around you.
I think sort of stemming from that kind of thinking, it's the way that you can take, or you can look at the taken for granted and see what holds it together and make more kind of critical judgments about the things that you would probably at least conventionally accept without thinking about twice.
Just learning the different types of theories and how they've evolved over time.
I think some stuff are really, really technical, so there was certain ideas that I didn't think they would go into as much depth into. So like with the arguments, there's like a sort of reasoning you need to go with. So you really need to think about like your arguments and like, does it make sense? Is there logic to it, or am I making any fallacies or contradictions in what I'm saying? So I had to think about arguments in like very different ways to how I usually go to.
Yeah, I suppose so, and it was a good surprise. It was the sort of the range that we cover. There's a lot of thinkers and a lot of names, so you're exposed to quite a lot. And there's something that's, well, you're allowed quite a lot of freedom in what you want to find out more about. And yeah, in that sense, I was quite pleasantly surprised.
I wasn't really expecting how many definitions and technical terms that we'd have to learn. It's like an entirely new set of vocabulary, but yeah.
I think there's definitely a mathematical element to it, which I hadn't preceded. For example, you have to provide proofs for different theories of knowledge.
Aristotle's theory on how to reach eudaimonia and how we can be happy in life and how we can get there.
I think it would be utilitarianism, because we tend to prioritize happiness above all, but is your happiness more invaluable than somebody else's? You have to take into, it's actually the sum of satisfaction. You see whether you can make everybody happy. Is that truly possible?
My answer to this question is always epistemology, which is the philosophy of knowledge. I think, at least in my opinion, to some degree, it's kind of the basis upon which all of philosophy rests on. The idea that what can you really know? I find that absolutely fascinating.
One of the main things I've enjoyed is Kantian ethics, and it just really made me question like my ethical opinions and like what do I use to base my ethics on? Like, do I think about the best consequence of your like my actual intent? But over time, I've been leaning towards focusing on the intent that you're doing an action with. But hearing different theories has made me realize that there's like a lot more nuance to ethical beliefs that you may hold and like why you have them.
Well, my plan is to do philosophy at university, but in terms of my A-levels, I think first of all it encourages kind of rigour in terms of your language and being specific, but with specific regards to English, I think it can really supplement the ideas, because there's so much in literature that allows for kind of philosophical ideas to be explored, and having that subject alongside it, that really means I can do that, I think, in a rewarding way.
I think it fits really well with my other A-levels because they're all humanities and essay-based, like English and politics and French, and it helps me develop how to argue and how to write essay as well. And I'm not really sure what I want to do for a career, but I think I may want to do languages at uni, and and philosophy is gonna help me with essay writing, and just getting more confident speaking, I guess, in class also.
It's the only humanities that I do, so it's a bit different in that it's very essay based, but it really pushes me to think very like critically and analyze stuff. So it's helped a bit with the logic side, because it kind of ties into like proofs that we do in maths. The way you do logical statements and think about it kind of links nicely to maths. And I think it just helped me overall like thinking creatively and like pushing myself to analyze problems in a slightly abstract or different way to how I usually do.
So I do politics. I think a lot of philosophical strategies are employed within the government as well. So you have to have like a clear outline of how they approach issues, humanitarian issues. I intend to do PPE. So that's obviously politics, philosophy, and economics, and that's how it fits in out there.